Back to our history. In September 609 BCE, Jehoiakim started to rule in Judah. The 26th Egyptian dynasty was still ruling in the Levant and fought against the Babylonians on the Euphrates River on the territories on the past Assyrian Empire. We already discussed the great victory of Nebuchadnezzar against the Egyptians in 605 BCE, and the Babylonian Chronicle is very clear in the description of the events that took place between May and July 605 BCE. The war at Carchemish was conducted during the late spring and early summer of 605. Nebuchadnezzar died in the 15th or 16th in August 605. Nebuchadnezzar became a king in the 6th or 7th of September of that same year. Immediately afterwards, Nebuchadnezzar went back to Hatiland, and until February 604 BCE, he marched there unopposed, took heavy tribute, and returned to Babylon. From his seat in Jerusalem, Jeremiah could see very well the defeated Egyptian army returning to Egypt. He could express his views on this historical event, and we can read in chapter 46, verse 2, that he is dating the war in a very exact way, and I will read it. למצרים, על חיל פרעה נכו מלך מצרים, אשר היה על נהר פרת בחרקמיש, אשר היכה נבוכדרצר מלך בבל, בשנת הרביעית ליהויקים בן יאשיהו מלך יהודה. Jehoiakim became king in September 609, and his fourth year ended in September 605 BCE. The war was already over in September, since Nebuchadnezzar already came back to Babylon after the death of his father, and he became already a king. In verses 2 to 12, the prophet Jeremiah expressed the strong impression left in Judah by the Egyptian defeat. And it's enough for me to read only one verse from this, verse 6. Again, I'll read it. אל ינוס הקל ואל יימלט הגיבור, צפונה על יד נהר פרת, כשלו נפלו. At this stage, the Babylonians had established their control to the Orontes and had transformed Rivla into the major administrative and military center in Hatiland. It would be difficult to assume that, at this stage, the Babylonians made any changes in the political arrangements that were in place in northern Syria. These were already well rooted, and there were no other political systems in that region or any population with a national identity. Furthermore, the Babylonian Chronicle does not mention anymore the presence of any Egyptian army outside of Egypt. It seemed that the Egyptian rule throughout southern Syria, the Phoenician coast, and the land of Israel crumbled after the battle at Carchemish. Necho's army withdrew to Egypt, leaving the entire region like a ripe fruit for the Babylonians. Let's move forward in time to the first year of Nebuchadnezzar as a king, between April 604 and March 603 BCE. The events described in the chronicle of this year are from June 604 to February 603 BCE. And I'll read it from the book of Grayson with the Babylonian and Syrian chronicles. In the first year of Nebuchadnezzar, in the month of Sivan, he mustered his army and went to Hatiland. In Hatiland, he marched about as a winner until the month of Kislev. All the kings of Hatiland came before him, and he received their heavy tribute. This is probably the time period when the Babylonians were subjugating the territories of southern Syria and the land of Israel up to Gaza. None of the local kings dared stand up to Nebuchadnezzar, except for one king. Let's come back to the Babylonian Chronicles. He, it means Nebuchadnezzar, marched to the city of Ashkelon and captured it in the month of Kislev. He captured its king, plundered it, and carried off spoil from it. He turned the city into a mound and heaps of ruins, and then, in the month of Shvat, he marched back to Babylon. The proximity of Ashkelon to the Egyptian border and the long years of Egyptian rule were apparently the factors that led the king of this small kingdom to continue to rely on Egyptian assistance. Not understanding the change that had taken place in the international balance of power, he refused to capitulate to Babylon. The Babylonian response was decisive, and the fate of the city served as an example to the other kingdoms of this region. Ashkelon was conquered in the months of Kislev, November or December 604 BCE, and was razed to the ground. The archaeological finds from Ashkelon can just support the description of the destruction of Ashkelon by the Babylonians. In my opinion, the fate of Ashkelon was singular and exceptional, and the Babylonians quickly and easily took control of all of Hatuland. In January or February 603 BCE, when Nebuchadnezzar returned to his own country, his armies were positioned at the gates of Egypt. It seemed that all of the kings of Transjordan, the Phoenician coast, and Philistia capitulated to Nebuchadnezzar, and he could have begun planning the next stage in the establishment of the empire, the conquest of Egypt and the elimination of the only enemy who could threaten him. And what about Judah? Was Judah among the kingdoms that were enslaved to Nebuchadnezzar during the second half of 604 BC? Can we detect exactly when? Do we have further details concerning the inner conflicts in Judah during this period? The answer is yes. And for more details, you should move on to the next unit of this course.